Take you now to California, where officials are holding an update on the battle against those deadly wildfires. Let's listen in.
Impacted. All of us here in the State Operations Center and those involved in the massive response efforts to these fires are thinking about you. Our hearts go out to you, those affected by the fires, and we understand that lives have been changed forever by these events. This is difficult, and we are dedicated of using every available resource to help you, to help the communities, and to help our first responders out there be able to mitigate the situation. We're going to get through this, however. The emergency is not over, and we continue to work at it, but we are seeing some great progress in some of the areas that the fires have impacted. You'll hear more about this when Director Ken Pemlock from CAL FIRE briefs you in a minute. Today is Friday. It's the 6th day of these fires, but we are still at it full tilt, and we'll get ahead of these flames and preventing more loss of property and life throughout the weekend and into the next week and as long as it takes. Our priorities today, number one is firefighting and life saving, other public safety, law enforcement, public health, etc. We are watching carefully the wind conditions, and it's a concern of ours as we move forward, and not just here, but throughout the entire state. Secondly, taking care of the thousands of those who have been evacuated and are hurting. Many more were asked to evacuate recently from Napa, Calistoga, and other areas. Recovery assistance and implementing recovery programs, which you'll hear more about from FEMA Regional Administrator Bob Fenton. Looking at what's needed for the long haul, already working on the recovery strategy and implementing the strategy moving forward in the coming days. This is not a situation where we're going to wait for all of the fire to be out before we begin the recovery process. The recovery process will begin, and it already has begun, in getting ready to roll in to the communities that have been impacted where we can. Currently, there is an extensive effort going on doing damage assessment and getting a good situational awareness of what we need to do and the areas we need to get into first. Our focus includes individuals, businesses, NGOs, non-governmental organizations, tribal community groups, and everyone else hit by these awful fires. Again, I have to repeat this because really want to underscore it. We need to tell all those who are in this right now that we know you're hurting, but we're not out of the firefight, and we're doing everything to continue to protect you and respond to these fires. The operation will be nonstop here from the State Operations Center and across the state to pump new fire, law enforcement, medical, sheltering, and other resources into the counties, local authorities attacking these fires. The mutual aid system in the state remains second to none, and it is operating as designed. As you know, now we have received resources and personnel from many states, including Nevada, Washington, Idaho, Montana, New Mexico, North and South Carolina, Oregon, and Arizona. And we've also begun conversations with Utah, New Mexico, and Idaho. We have 425 law enforcement officers and more than 9,000 firefighters, 840 fire engines from throughout California, agencies, and more than 170 engines from supporting states and our partners in the federal government. I'll say that beyond FEMA, the U.S. Forest Service has been engaged with us and has supplied many resources, which you'll hear about shortly from Robert Baird from the U.S. Forest Service, who's going to speak to you shortly. Sheltering operations, we still have over 3,900 people in evacuation centers as late as last night, and are about 40% shelter capacity. So we have about 43 shelters that are activated statewide, for these incidents. They're at roughly about 40% capacity. At least 40,320 meals have been served, 30,000 cots have been provided, and more than 60,000 liters of water have been deployed through the strategic state staging areas. Those numbers don't include the huge response from our private sector partners, including Raley's, Nestle, Walmart, Airbnb, Dyson, Home Depot, Direct Relief International, AT&T, and many others. Private sector partnership, also coordinated, embedded right here in the State Operations Center, has been a phenomenal part. This is a community effort, public, private, non-governmental, the business community, everybody coming through together as a whole of community to respond to this incident. We have been able to restore power to 17,500 people yesterday, which makes our current stand at about 29,500 people who are without power statewide. The 77 cell towers that were knocked out in the incident have all but 8 have been restored now, and they're working very diligently to get those last 8 up and operational. I want to say again that we're not out of this emergency, not even close. We continue to address the current and future needs. This includes those most at risk, such as the elderly, the very young, and those with access and functional needs. For those near and around the fires, please listen to your local emergency services for possible more evacuations, shelter updates, and road closures. This is via social media. This is via portable radio, your TV. It can come to you in multiple means. So please be attentive to those vehicles where that information could come forward. And if you're not in these areas driving around our state, you'll see fire trucks and other convoys and resources responding. Please make way for them to get through. They are actively trying to get to the fires, and you'll hear more about that from our Highway Patrol Commissioner, Warren Stanley. So at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Chief Ken Pemlock from CAL FIRE for an update on the fire operations.
Thank you, Director. Good morning. So as of this morning, we have 17 large fires for 221,754 acres that have burned since the beginning of the 6-day fire siege Director Ghilarducci indicated. And again, 840 fire engines, 116 firefighting bulldozers, 211 hand crews, amounting to over 9,000 firefighters committed to the fire line as we speak. And this accounts for a significant increase. Literally several thousand additional firefighters were deployed to the fire lines on these major fires over the last 24 hours. Talk a little bit about, because it can be very confusing in terms of all these fires and how they're being organized. As I've said before, there are 4 complexes that all of these fires are being organized under. We talk a lot about the central complex, which is now all of the fires in Sonoma County. The south complex, which are all of the fires in Napa County. The Mendocino complex, which are the fires in Mendocino County and Lake County. And then we have the Wind complex, which are the fires in Nevada, Butte, and Yuba. We have been focusing primarily on the central and the south because that's obviously our highest priority fires, where the greatest structure threat, infrastructure threat, and largest fires are. But I don't want to forget that we've got these 2 other complexes where firefighters have been doing some amazing work, bringing some of these to containment and getting resources there with limited firefighting resources because we've been putting priority on these others. As of this morning, we continue with our law enforcement partners who continue the grim task of searching through the rubble and adjudicating the missing persons from this tragedy. As of this morning, the number of individuals killed by these fires stands at 31. As I've said before, we've all said that number continues to be fluid. We will provide those updates as they come in. There's a lot of different numbers that can be posted out there. Look for the official numbers that come through the system, through the Joint Information Centers, through your media folks, as those are updated. We have had some significant progress, some good news to report here in the last 24 hours. 3 smaller fires have been contained 100%, including a fire in Sonoma County along Highway 37. We've increased containment on most of our major fires by some degree. The Tubbs fire in the Central Complex is now 25% contained at 34,770 acres. The Atlas fire in the South Complex is 27% contained at 48,228 acres. We're very careful and cautious about how we do this. Our first priority is putting the fire out, protecting lives and property. But right after that, we're working very diligently to put together repopulation plans, because it's very important for everyone, for all of you, to get folks back into their homes where it's safe and appropriate to do so. So all of the incidents are evaluating that right now, and we hope to have news in the future to where that can be occurring. And again, that will be an ongoing process, coordinating very closely with the utilities, with the counties, with local law enforcement and others. It's a very coordinated effort, literally going block by block to render these communities safe and to ensure it's ready for habitation. And we will be keeping everyone updated incident by incident with that information. So again, pay very close attention to your information through social media and others at the local incidents. Investigators are actively investigating the cause and origin of all of these fires. Literally, in Sonoma County alone, we have 20 cause and origin investigators combing the landscape working on that. We are not going to have a lot of extra information or additional information to talk about over the weeks to come as they go through this painstaking process. It's very technical. You know, clues, information, all these things can be consumed in a fire. These experts have to go through and do a lot of work forensically to get there. So I'm going to continue to tell you that we can't talk about it. I don't even know what's going on out there because our investigators are working diligently on the ground. But trust me, we take that seriously, and they're going to continue to work on that. As we indicated, resources continue to pour in from all over the country and internationally, as Director Ghilarducci indicated. But we're not out of the woods yet. Red flag warnings have been posted for tonight, well into the weekend, for not only the areas impacted in Northern California by existing fires, but for a good portion of Southern California from Santa Barbara down the coast into Orange County. This will be, as we saw again, or we saw last weekend, very low humidities, very dry air, and winds that could be in excess of 45 miles an hour over the existing fires, as well as in Southern California, traditional sundowner and Santa Ana type winds. We are preparing for this. We are moving resources. We are pre-deploying. We've established mobilization centers in Central and Southern California. These additional resources coming in, 75 additional fire engines coming in from outside of California, are being pre-deployed to these mobilization centers or sent to additional incidents as they occur.
We've been listening in there from California, an update on the wildfire situation there. They're still working to contain it. There are some evacuation zones in place, and they are continuing to monitor exactly what track these wildfires are taking. We'll have much more from this press conference, and we'll continue to monitor it. We're going to take a short break. You're streaming CBSN.